Dear students, I am Mahesh Javalkar of Maratha Mandal Polytechnic, and today I am posting my third video on DCT October 2020 question paper solved. Okay, so today I will be sending you from question number 41 to 60 on the electronic section. Okay, so let's start with the question. Question of 41. Dash RAM must be refreshed many times per second. Okay, so we know that various types of RAMs are dynamic RAM, static RAM, non-volatile RAM, okay, CD-RAM. Okay, now from this, the option A, that is dynamic RAM, must be refreshed many times because it consists of a transistor and a capacitor, and the charging of capacitor will store the memory, and that charging will not remain for a longer time. It will tend to discharge, so every time it has to refresh, it has to be charged again and again. That is the basic concept behind that. If you see the theory, dynamic RAM must be refreshed many times per second. Dynamic RAM is the most common type of memory used today. Dynamic RAM memory cell holds one bit of information and is made up of two parts, a transistor and a capacitor. Okay, so there are many small transistor and capacitors on a single memory chip. The capacitor can be either charged or discharged, and this can be taken as logic 0 or logic 1. Okay, now a dynamic RAM, the most common kind of RAM for personal computers and workstations, has to be refreshed many times per second in order to hold its data contents. DRAM needs to have its storage cells refreshed or given a new electronic charge every few milliseconds. DRAM stores each bit in a storage cell consisting of a capacitor and a transistor. Capacitor tend to lose their charge. This is very important. A capacitor tend to lose their charge rather quickly. Thus, it always needs recharging. Okay, that is why dynamic RAM is refreshed always. Okay, so here the answer A, option A will be the answer for question number 41. Then we'll go to the next question. A baud rate is defined as, okay. Now, a baud rate is nothing but symbols or electronic events which are transmitted per second. Okay. Now, those symbols can be your binary bits also. Symbols can be your binary bit where every symbol can be represented by a set or by a code word. Okay. That means baud rate can be given in bits per second, but it is basically number of symbols transmitted per second or number of electronic events transmitted per second. So here option A will be the answer for this. Baud rate is defined as the number of symbols transmitted per second. Okay, if the symbols are your binary bits, then it can be number of bits per second. But basically, the definition of baud rate says that it is number of symbols, where symbols can be a set of binary bits, or symbols can be electronic events. Symbols can be anything. Okay, so number of symbols transmitted per second is baud rate, and that is the basic difference between baud rate and bit rate. Now, students, we'll go to the next question. Question of 43. The noise which is introduced in the transmitter and carried away all the way along to the receiver output is called as. Okay. Now, if you see the options, a channel noise is a noise which is added in the channel. Quantization noise is a noise which can be produced in the transmitter itself, because whenever you have this sampling and quantization process, whenever you are converting analog to a digital, whenever you are using a processes like a PCM, okay, whenever we are quantizing, depending on the quantization levels, we round off our amplitude value. Say for example, if the amplitude value is 1.8 volt, it can go to be rounded one like 2 volt, so there will be a zero point 0.2 quantization error. All these types of errors while quantizing will make a quantization noise. Okay, so that is one which can be produced in the transmitter section, and that is one which can go through the channel to the receiver until the receiver output. Okay, so I think here the option B, quantization noise, is the right answer here. So question number 43, the answer, the noise which is introduced in the transmitter and carried all the way along to the receiver output is called as quantization noise. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Dash adjusts its step size according to signal characteristics. Okay. Now here options are delta modulation. Option B is adaptive delta modulation. Option C is differential pulse code modulation. And option D is pulse code modulation. Okay. Now, in this, we know when we studied delta modulation that delta modulation DM was facing two types of errors. One was called as slope overload error, and one was called as granular noise. Those were the distortions offered by delta modulation. And that distortion was because whenever the step size was overlapping the analog signal, that time the step size was unit, a same step size was there for the staircase waveform, and because of that it was not able to adapt the steepness of the signal, and also whenever the signal is not varying. Okay, so in that case you have two types of distortion in delta modulation. One is called as granular noise and the other is called as slope overload distortion. Now to avoid this type of distortion, okay, to avoid this type of distortion, you have to adapt a change in the step size. The step size should adjust according to the basic signal variation. If the signal is very steeply varying, then the step size should become large. If the signal is not varying at all, then the step size should become small. Okay, so that process, that modified version of delta modulation, in which you vary the step size according to the signal, is called as adaptive delta modulation. So here option B will be the right answer, which is adaptive delta modulation. So here you can see in the first figure, I have shown the distortion in delta modulation. You can see slope overload or distortion and also the granular noise. Okay, so slope overload is also shown and a granular noise also is shown. Okay, now slope overload comes into picture when there is the signal is very steep. So here you can see slope overload. Okay, so this part is slope overload, and when the signal is not varying, this part you can see it is granular noise. Okay, so that is because the step size, you can see the step size is same, it is not varying. Okay, now that if you vary as shown in the second figure, so in the second figure you can see if you vary the step size, okay, when the signal is very steep, so here you can see when the signal is going very steep, the step size is increasing. Okay, increasing. And when the signal is not varying at all, the step size is decreasing. Okay, so this is what you can reduce the distortion of delta modulation. And then the process in which you are varying the step size according to the signal will be called as adaptive delta modulation, ADM. So the answer will be ADM for this. Then we'll go to the next question. Question number 45. In a positive logic, if a 1 logic 1 is represented by plus a volt and 0 is represented by minus a volt, then it is called as which type of line coding format, whether it is bipolar format, unipolar format, non-polar format, or polar format. Okay, now from this the answer will be polar format, because it is going to plus and minus values both. It is going to plus a and minus a both. Okay, now in this polar format, you can have return to zero also, you can have non-return to zero also. So if you want a full duration pulse, then we can speak about non-return to zero. So logic 1 will be represented by plus a volt and logic 0 will be represented as minus a volt, and that happens in polar format, that is option D. So here you can see polar signaling, polar return to zero and polar non-return to zero. So polar non-return to zero we have shown whenever the pulse is going high, it is plus volt, and pulse is going low, it is minus volt. That high plus volt is represented as 1, and that minus volt is represented 0. If you want this voltage in terms of A, you can show this type of waveform where the plus A on top is showing you logic 1. Okay, so here you can see where you have shown the plus A. This is plus A, this is plus A. This is showing you this complete part is for logic 1 for non-return to 0. Okay, for non-return to 0. And then you can see this is minus A, and this complete part is for minus A. Okay, minus A. This is non-return to 0. If you want return to 0, then half the duration you are going to take for plus A and half the duration for minus A for logic 1 and logic 0 respectively. Okay, so here it is polar type of format. So option D will be the right answer. Okay, then we'll go to the next question. Question number 46. Dash involves switching the amplitude of a sinusoidal carrier between two values in accordance with the incoming binary data while keeping the frequency and phase constant. Okay, now this is a question based on digital modulation. Okay, digital modulation involves three types. One is BASK, binary amplitude shifting. One is BFSK, binary phase shifting, and the third one is BPSK, binary phase shifting. Okay, now in binary amplitude shifting, we are going to vary the amplitude of the high frequency carrier. Okay, amplitude of the high frequency carrier according to the incoming binary data, whether it is logic 1 or logic 0. So whenever it is logic 1, amplitude will be present. Whenever it is logic 0, amplitude will be absent. And the frequency and phase of the carrier, high frequency carrier, remains constant. So this process is called as binary amplitude shift keying, BASK. So here the option C will be the right answer, BASK. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Dash shares a single carrier frequency with several users by dividing the transmission time into non-overlapping slots. Now here you are having a single frequency band. Okay. And then you are dividing the users based on time, and there is a time which is not overlapping, so non-overlapping slots are also there. So it is time division multiplex access. So it is time division multiple access. So TDMA, C will be the answer here. So C, TDMA, because you are going to divide on the basis of time. Okay, so a single frequency band is divided by several users on the basis of time. So it is time division multiple access. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Light is used as a carrier of information in dash. Okay. Now light is used as a carrier of information instead of electric current. It is used in optical fibers. So fiber optic cables are the transmission medias in which light is used as a carrier of information. So here we have to convert electrical energy into light by the optical sources like LED or laser, and while receiving it, we have to convert light back to electrical by your avalanche photodiode or phototransistor or photodiode. Okay, so those will convert the light energy into electrical energy. So that means the light as a carrier will be traveling in fiber optic cables. So option C will be the right answer here, fiber optic cables. Okay, now we'll go to question number 49. Dash requires both the stations must be available at the same time for the data exchange. Okay. Now this question is based on your DCN subject, that is data communication and networking. Now in that we have studied three types of switching. One was circuit switching, one was message switching, and the other was packet switching. Okay. Now in circuit switching, the path between the transmitter and receiver should be fixed first. It should be dedicated first, and then the data will be transmitted from the transmitter to receiver. That was your basic circuit switching, in which the path can remain idle if there is no transmission. Okay, then comes message switching. In message switching, store and forward scheme is used, whenever the message is sent from one node to another node, from transmitter it will go to the first node, then second node, then third node. How many nodes are there in between a transmitter and a receiver? At every node it will stop, it will be stored and forwarded. It will be forwarded only when the next path is remaining empty. Whenever the next path is available, whenever the shortest path is available, it will be forwarded. It will save the time, but here the path between transmitter and receiver is not dedicated before only. Okay, similar will be the packet switching, in which a big message which will be converted into small packets, and then packets will be sent in order from transmitter to receiver. Again, here store and forward concept will come, but it is not having the path between transmitter and receiver fixed earlier only. Okay. Now in the question he has asked, dash requires both the stations must be available at the same time for the data exchange, and this should be in your basic switching system, which is called as circuit switching. So here option B will be the right answer, circuit switching. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. This question is also based on your data communication and networking subject. Segmentation and reassembly is done in dash layer of the OSI model. Now the OSI model will be having 7 layers. Now in those 7 layers, in which layer segmentation and reassembly is done? Now segmentation and reassembly is done in transport layer. So here option will be A, transport layer. Now here if you see the theory, in a packet switched telecommunication, segmentation and reassembly, which is called as SAR, okay, is the process of breaking a packet into smaller units before transmission and reassembling them back into the proper order at the receiving end. Now, this breaking and reassembling of the packet is done in the transport layer. SAR is performed in the transport layer at both ends. A transport protocol determines the size of the smallest maximum protocol data unit supported by any of the involved network and segments the packets accordingly. So it is transport layer in which segmentation and reassembly takes place. Okay. So here option A will be the right answer. Then we'll go to the next question. Self-healing mechanism is used in which type of network? Okay, whether it is a token bus, token ring, or fiber distributed data interface or Ethernet. Okay, so here basically we have a token ring. Okay, now token ring was a ring in which all the computers will be connected. Okay, and the computer which wants to send the data has to accept the token first, which is on the line. Okay, so once it accepts the token, then it can send its data, and that data will be having the destination address. And once the data reaches the destination address, at that time the destination source or the destination computer will change a bit in the acknowledgement a bit of the data, and then it will send back the data to the original sender. The original sender will see that the acknowledgement flag is raised, and once the acknowledgement flag is raised, it will come to know that the data has been received. Now this happens in token ring. Okay, now the problem with token ring is that if any of the computer or if any of the node is damaged or goes under maintenance, is broken down, it goes under breakdown, then the token ring cannot communicate. Okay, to avoid this problem, a next type of method is used where there are two types of rings. Okay, one is primary ring and one is secondary ring, and this takes place in FDII. Okay, FDII is a fiber distributed data interface system in which fiber optics are used and a network is made. Okay, now in that you have primary and secondary network, in which if in the primary network any one of the node goes under maintenance, okay, if it goes under breakdown, then the network will continue with the other secondary ring and the communication will continue. There will be no stoppage of communication, and in that mean period the the system which is under maintenance will be repaired, and after it repairs, the original ring will be continued. So if you see here in the first figure, I have shown FDII, FDDI in all station functioning. So here you can see in the first figure here, all stations are functioning. There is no damage. All stations are functioning. Okay, and this is the primary ring, this is the secondary ring. Okay, so any one ring you can use, and token ring concept will be followed here. But say if one computer here goes under breakdown, okay, then what will happen? The inner ring which was originally working will get clubbed with the outer ring, and this communication will start. Okay, this communication will start till this computer is repaired. Okay, once this computer is repaired, then the original ring, again the inner ring will take the charge, and the original ring will start continuing. So this mechanism is called as self-healing. This feature is called as self-healing. Okay, then FDDI is a network which gives you self-healing. Okay, so self-healing mechanism is used in which network? It is used in FDDI. Okay, then we'll go to the next question. In dash method, server assigns a physical address to the computer every time it boots. So it is a dynamic version of it. Every time it boots, you have to give an physical address. You have to assign a physical address. This will happen in dynamic addressing. So dynamic address will be the answer over here. In dynamic address method, server assigns a physical address to the computer every time it boots. So here option A will be the right answer, dynamic address. Then we'll go to the next question. Dash connects two separate LANs that uses the same media access protocol. Okay. Now the options are routers, bridge, gateway, and repeaters. Okay. Now in this, whenever you want to connect two LANs, okay, so we mostly speak about bridge and gateway. Okay. Now in bridge, whenever you are using a bridge while connecting two LANs, local area network, then both the LANs should have same media access protocol. And when you're using gateway, then the LANs can have different media access protocol. Okay, that means here the option for same media access protocol, option B will be the right answer, that is bridge. So here you can see the theory. A gateway is used to connect two networks with different protocols, and a bridge is used to connect networks with same protocol. So option has to be bridge. So here B, bridge, will be the answer. Then we'll go to the next question. This is based on your C programming. A character variable can at a time store. The options are 1 character or 8 character or 254 character or none of the above. So here the answer is 1 character. A character variable can at a time store 1 character. So option A is the right answer here. Then we'll go to the next question. What will be the output for the given below C program? Okay, so it starts with int x is equal to 20, y is equal to 30. Okay, and if x is equal to y, then you have to print that the value of x is 20 and value of y is 30. That means 20 and 30 you have to print. But for that printing, the condition required is if x is equal to y. So here you can see the condition which is required. Okay, so here you can see this is the condition which is required. X is equal to y. Now x is 20 and y is 30. That means this condition will not be fulfilled at all. When this condition is not fulfilled at all, there will be nothing printed. So here in this option, option D will be the right answer. Prints nothing. This program prints nothing because x will not become y, because x you have said it is 20 and y it is 30. So 20 is not equal to 30. So when 20 is not equal to 30, then that printf will not execute. Then there will be no printing done. So prints nothing. That is option D will be the right answer here. Okay. So this program prints nothing. Then we'll go to next question. Within a switch statement in your C programming, okay, option A is a continue cannot be used, but break can be used. A continue can be used, but break cannot be used. Neither continue nor break can be used, or both continue or break can be used. Now, in this switch statement, you can use a break. You can have a break and go to the other part of the program. Okay, but you cannot have a continue. Continue is used in loops. Okay, so option A will be the right answer here. A continue cannot be used, but break can be used. Okay, so here if you see, a continue is only usable in a loop body, but break is needed for other things too, like a controlling flow of execution in a switch statement. So here option A will be the right answer. A continue cannot be used, but break can be used. Then we'll go to the next question. This is based on your MATLAB. MATLAB is a, options are low level language, high level language, not a language, or none of the above. Obviously, it is a high level language. Okay, so option B will be the right answer. And if you see the theory here, MATLAB is a fourth generation high level language, an interactive environment for numerical computation, visualization, and programming. It allows matrix manipulations, plotting of functions and data, implementation of algorithm, a creation of user interface, interfacing with programs written in other languages, including C, C++, Java, and Fortran, analyze data, develop algorithms, and create models and applications. It has numerous built-in commands and mathematical functions that help you in mathematical calculations, generating plots, and performing numerical methods. Okay. Now, looking at all this concept of MATLAB, the first statement which says that MATLAB is a fourth generation high level programming language. That means it is a high level programming language. So here option B will be the right answer, high level language. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Question number 58. Dash command is used to generate output. Okay. Now in MATLAB, DISP is the command which is used to generate output. Okay. So option B will be the right answer. So to display text in the command window, we have to use DISP or fprintf. Okay. Now in the option fprintf is not there. Printf is there, but fprintf is not there. DISP is there. So option DISP will be the answer here. Option B will be the answer here. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Which of the following will correctly define X as a symbol? So out of these options, option B, that is SYMSX, will be the right answer. If you use option A, SYM in the bracket X, then you have to use inverted code for the X. But that is not shown here. So option B will be the right answer, SYMSX. Okay. So here you can see N symbolic math toolbox. You can declare symbolic object using SYMS also and using SYM also. But if you see here, where I have shown the example of SYMS. So SYMS, if you see here, it is having only X, SYMS X. But when you are using SYM, X should be in inverted commas. Okay, that means SYMS X is the option which is correct to define X as a symbol. Okay, so option B is the answer here. Then we'll go to the next question. Link register, that is register 14, R14, which you use in R controller. This question is based on ARM controller. Link register, which is register number 14 in ARM controller, is used for what? Now, link is you're linking something. Okay, that means it is going to store some address. Okay, that is the return address. Now, whenever there is a jump or a call in a main program, the return address will be in a usual process will be stored on stack. But here you can store it in link register also. Okay. So link register is your register number 14, R14, which is called as link register, which will hold the return address of the main program where the sub program should execute and come back to the main program. That next address will be there in the link register. So, and that link register you can use in your instructions. So it becomes very useful in ARM processor. Okay. So link register is going to hold the return address. So here the option B will be the right answer. Okay. So students, here I have taken another 20 question of your October 2020 DCET question paper on the electronics section. In my next video, I will take the next or 20 questions of the question paper. Okay. Thank you very much.